Suzy, selected as a candidate in 2011, it's now 2013. What have you learnt about Harlow in those almost 2 years?
Oh, lots of things. Harlow is an amazing place. It's a place with incredible potential. I'm sure you know the background to Harlow, that it was designed by, I don't want to give you a history lesson, but by Freddie Gibbard to bring a good quality of life to people. And that's the way it was, planned and designed. And it is this incredible place, countryside everywhere. But you get, it's very clear when you talk to people on the doorsteps that it's not quite fulfilling its potential for a whole array of different reasons. So I think I've learnt that Harlow is one of those places which has great potential but isn't yet fulfilling that potential. And things like housing, you've got about 7,000 people on the housing waiting list here. It's a place where housing needs to be built but in the right place, in a way that doesn't steal away from what Harlow is. Unemployment, young people not getting into jobs is again a huge thing on the doorsteps which people bring up, and we need to be encouraging businesses and companies to move here, not move out from here. Transport is another problem. We need better transport links, and that will encourage people to come in. And I think aspiration is a huge thing actually. Going into the schools, there's some fantastic schools in Harlow, but I always say to people, one of my earliest experiences in Harlow was talking to a girl of 14 in Staple Tie, and her saying that, basically she wasn't really looking forward to her future because she just said, there aren't any jobs for us. And that was, for me, really heartbreaking that a 14-year-old was even already feeling that way about her future. And I think aspiration is something that we need to encourage more here, but that completely ties in with ensuring that there are homes and ensuring that there are jobs.
So you mentioned housing. As a prospective candidate, is there anything you can do about that at the moment?
It's a difficult one because, as you say, I am just a prospective parliamentary candidate for Harlow as opposed to being actually the MP. But there are things that we can do. Working with the local council to encourage them in some of the proposals that are going through. Some of them are positive, some of them aren't, because I think it's proposals to build housing possibly not in the right places. So I think things like that can be helpful, but clearly there are limits because I am just the parliamentary candidate. But I think ensuring that we keep putting pressure on, so through people like yourselves, and saying actually housing needs to be up there, continually saying that actually you do have 7,000 people on the housing waiting list, the impact that this has on people's lives, on people's quality of life, and ensuring that that is on the radar and putting pressure on the right people. That is some of what I can do. But ultimately we need Labour back in government in 2015. We've said that we would tax the bankers' bonuses, provide £2 billion and build 25,000 new homes, and actually it'd be more than that. So actually ultimately, I know it's the easy thing to say, we need Labour back in government so we can build the houses that people need in Harlow.
Robert Halfon, he's doing a good job, isn't he?
It depends on what you mean by doing a good job. I think people in Harlow are not particularly happy that Robert Halfon voted for a tax cut for millionaires. He's voted to ensure that average families are £891 worse off each year. He voted for an increase in vowel fares. He hasn't supported our jobs guarantee for young people. So, as you know, my background is working with unemployed young people and families, something I'm extremely passionate about. And Labour, in 2015, we would guarantee a job for every 18-plus-year-old for 2 years. And that means that people in Harlow, it means that their taxes are not paying for young people to sit at home, but it also means that the youth potential of Harlow isn't being wasted, but actually we're using it, and that these young people are getting to have a job. And Halfon hasn't supported us on that. So actually, you could say he's doing a good job, but I'm not sure if I think that's a good job. We are saying that actually we need to be investing in infrastructure projects. His government are not supporting that enough. So there's a whole array of different things where I just think, no, I don't know whether he is doing a good job. It's very easy to visit charities and smile and to handshake and to have a photo taken. Well done to him for doing that. But actually, day in, day out, he's going into Westminster and he's voting on things that are not helping the people of Harlow.
A lot of people are conscious of how proud a lot of Labour voters and actually Labour members in Harlow proud of a socialist tradition. Is that an old-fashioned thing now? You know, we've gone through New Labour and Tony Blair. Is there still a room in Harlow for what you would call a socialist tradition?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we depends on how you define it, but if we're defining socialism as giving everyone a fair chance to get a job, ensuring that there isn't massive division between rich and poor, whether that's nationally or in Harlow, ensuring that we invest in our public services, our local hospital and our schools, I think a vast number of people buy into that and are passionate about that. You know, a big thing for me when it comes to socialism is about levelling the playing field. You know, I always say, I went to a state school, but I got to Cambridge, and the difference in the people that I met there, lovely people, but just their background and the privilege that they had. And for me, it's about ensuring that there is a levelling of the playing field, not that everyone's going to have the same outcome, but every child in Harlow should have their chance of being able to get a job. Every child should have their chance of being able to fulfil their potential. And for me, this is where Labour does it right. We are passionate about that. And the Tories, they say they're about aspiration, but they're never going to be radical enough to actually ensure that, as I say, every child, every family have their fair chance of fulfilling their potential, getting that job. And for me, that is what socialism is about. And I think a vast number of people that I meet on the doorsteps in Harlow are passionate about that.
But from 1979 to 1997, Harlow rejected Labour, and in 2010 they rejected Labour again. Are there any lessons you can learn from that at all?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's probably two of the biggest themes. Part of it is to do with the economy. And we all know one of the big things there is that the Tories keep saying, the mess Labour left us in. I don't know about you, but I know we know that's not true. The economy was actually recovering. I always give this one. The economy was recovering in 2010, and the Tories choked that off by cutting all the infrastructure projects. So ultimately, they can't be blaming the current economic crisis on us. This is their fourth year in government. I mean, I think it's embarrassing that they're still doing that. But the second thing is I think people felt that Labour had lost touch and that we weren't listening enough. And in some ways that's, I suppose, where I feel I come in, because my background is not in politics. I've spent my whole working life serving young people and families from poor backgrounds. And I'm very passionate about kind of getting back to the grassroots and listening to people. We've run a number of events in Harlow, pizza and politics events. We've had 50, 60 people turn up, all of whom are not members of the Labour Party. And these are listening exercises. These are places to make politics engaging, but to listen to people. Where did you feel we let you down? What do we need to be doing? And I think that's absolutely crucial. So for me, those two areas are really, really important. And I would say when it comes to the economy, we've got a much better plan for jobs and growth than Osborne can even begin to dream of. So yeah.
And finally, we discussed socialism earlier, but I guess some might say that in the local elections next year and in European elections next year, indeed 2015, with the growing influence of UKIP, there may be people tempted to lurch to the right. Can you understand, not only the voter, or the voter, and also the parties? Can you understand that?
I think it's very difficult in this country because our press, as we know, can be quite right-wing, and I think that the picture that is being painted is not fully accurate. Now the fact is that in Harlow, people want houses, as in they need houses for their kids, as I say, 7,000 people on the waiting list, and people need jobs. And if we can provide housing and jobs, I'm not saying it's as simple as that, but if we can build houses, and as I say, we are passionate about that banker's bonus tax and providing 100,000 jobs for young people and building 25,000 new homes, if we can do that, then people won't be worrying about these other issues. So for me, I think there's a right-wing agenda in the media, and that is creating quite a scare. At the same time, there are concerns about immigration, and I think as the Labour Party we need to be listening to that. So there's two sides to it, but the fact of the matter is UKIP are not the answer to that problem. The Tories are definitely not the answer to that problem, and I think I'm biased, but Labour are.
And finally, we've got another 20 months, I guess, towards the election. Do you have any plan? Are you in Harlow all the time, or once a month? Or what's your presence and what's your plan? Finally?
Yeah, I'm definitely not here all the time because I have a job. I'm generally fairly working class girl, so I've got a job that I hold down. I teach and I work with young people, and I'm quite passionate about that. But I'm in Harlow as much as I can be. Today, I've been visiting a homeless project and meeting with people that some of them lost their jobs since economic problems, and that's caused them to lose their houses. Later on, I'm going to be going to Acacia House, meeting with young people again who are struggling to get work. And you know, I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about visiting projects, encouraging people in the work that they're doing, going to the local hospital, encouraging the staff there. Recently, I played in a football match to raise funds for the local hospital. So being able to do those small things, supporting local schools, going into schools, talking to young people, listening to why young people don't engage in politics and trying to make politics more accessible for them. So there's a whole array of things that, you know, that I can be doing in this year and a half, and I've already been doing in the last year and a half. But ultimately, you know, we need to win here, and we need to win in 2015 really to fight for people in Harlow and to create the change that is needed.
Suzy, thank you very much.
Thank you.